Wednesday afternoon, and welcome to the hottest show in the galaxy, the Karen Hunter Show, right here on Sirius XM. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is Wednesday. Hashtag Unity, hashtag Wellness Wednesday, February 6, 2019. We're here. We're live. We love it. Hello, Smiz. How are you? What's going on? Jameson, new girl. What's happening? Truth in the universe. And today's Wednesday, and that means my co-host for the day is the one and only Afro State of Mind.
Hey, y'all.
Lurie Daniel Favors.
Hey, how are you?
What's up?
How you doing?
Recovering.
Yeah.
All this blackface and
Ooh,
lies
yeah.
and orange face and black. Yeah, it's just a lot happening.
Somebody said, can we reboot Black History Month? Like,
Can we? Just
turn
start
it
over.
off, turn it back on.
Can they
stick
do
it
the
in
State of the
rice?
Union in March? Like, I just think it's a defilement to have the State of the Union in February. We get like 28, 29 days every 4 years.
Right.
Can one of them be Trump free?
Right. And then if you look at the schools, they all have that week off, at least up in the Northeast quarter. So it's like Black History Month is shortest month of the year, and then for a lot of schools, they get a week off during February, so they don't even get the fullness.
Yeah,
of the month.
they call it President's Day.
President's Day, but we get a week here in New
Do
York.
we?
Yeah, a whole. Well, they do.
Oh,
the parents get a week of managing.
being home and being parents.
Yes,
teachers. All right. I don't even know where I want to start.
So many options.
Did you watch the State of the Union?
I listened to it afterwards. I didn't want to give him
The eyeballs.
the eyeballs.
Damn it, I did that. And I live tweeted. And
Well,
then I
but
tapped out.
I mean,
I tapped out at the end. I was like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
We have a hot show today.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because the truth of the matter is, it was one of the longest in the history, and I think he did that just so that Stacey Abrams would have a very short period of time to do hers, but she didn't need a lot of time.
No, she didn't.
There's a scripture that says, where many words... sin is sure to follow. do you know that's like a Proverbs?
Oh, that sounds like what my mother used to tell me.
It's true.
Yeah.
So she only needed 10 minutes and 44 seconds to say what she needed to say. He needed an
got it.
hour and change. And it started off so nice with the dulcet tones and the One America, and we need to come together, and no partisan. This is about America. And it sounded almost like red states and blue states. My word is my bond. Y'all some thievery ass plagiarizing people, those Trumps are.
Yes,
Anyway.
This is true.
Then he went Trump and started, and I said, "This is the blame the brown." What did I say? I was tweeting. This is the brown person is the boogeyman portion of the speech, where then they're raping our women, they're coming here bringing diseases, they're stealing your jobs, the drugs, the black, and then before that, let me use my token blacks. Black people. Hey, what do you have to lose? Unemployment all-time low. Fact, but not because of you.
Yeah.
You got handed. So we're doing a marathon. Somebody ran 25 miles, handed you a baton. You ran the last mile. Now you're taking credit for the whole thing. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
But anyway, he used that. And then he was like, yep, prison reform. Now, yesterday I had Harry Lennox on from a lot of things. Some people know him from, what's that, 5 Heartbeats. I like him in The Blacklist. He plays Harold Cooper right now. And he's played Adam Clayton Powell in the past. He's from Chicago. We had a conversation about Barack Obama that has some people in their feelings. But he had receipts. And it was hard for people to dispute him. I had to even sit here. I was like, yeah. I disagree with you fundamentally, but I know you have receipts.
That receipt right there, that looks like it cleared. That check cleared.
Yeah, that check. Yeah. One of them was prison reform. And he said that Barack Obama had the opportunity to do this. So now Trump gets to do this, and it's like a one-off. It's window dressing. So, of course, Alice Johnson is there, sitting next to Jared, who looks strange, lovingly looking at her, and she's crying. It's just like a scene out of Gone with the Wind. Anyway. Yeah. And there was another black guy who just got out of prison. He's a drug dealer, and now he's everything. So he's a lawyer. He's a doctor. He's like fed orphans. It was like, oh my God, this is like the redemption story. It's like blind. What's the hell is the name of the thing with the one with Sandra Bullock where she rescued the poor black guy. Blindside.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like Blindside meets a whole bunch of other Precious and a whole bunch of other movies. White saviors, not Precious, but anyway. So there was that. Let's take a moment to. Oh
yeah, there's like Dangerous Minds. There's a whole genre. Of white women saving black people.
Yes, because that's what happens in real life. Yeah, it's 53% of you voted for Trump, 60% for Roy Moore. So there was that portion. And then it was like, let's talk about these Mexicans in the wall, the southern border, blah, 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 blah. Oh, we're going to praise. There was a Holocaust section. You know, we're going to praise military. It had everything. I was full. It was like a smorgasbord of junk food and other things. I didn't leave nourished.
No.
And I almost passed out and fell asleep because I was waiting for Stacey Abrams.
That's really what that was. Yeah. I mean, she was the night for me.
I'm going to confess, I did fall asleep.
On Stacey?
No, before she came on. And when I woke up, she was talking about education or something. I was like, oh, my God. What happened? And then it was over. It's like I fell asleep. I have narcolepsy sometimes. So I had to go watch it again this morning.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
No, she did a wonderful job. She did a wonderful job.
Can we play a little bit of it just to detox? Because I feel like today's Wellness Wednesday. We're going to have Dr. Hydea Green's going to be on to talk more about orally today.
Looking forward to hearing her updates.
Right. And at the end of the show, we're going to have Dr. Ruby Lathan, who actually cured herself of cancer. So we're going to talk to, cancer in the front, cancer in the back. And then in between, I'm going to talk to a rapper who's doing some amazing things around education.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah, D1's going to be here. And it's just, And, Joe Kennedy, who did the clapback, was it last year? The clapback with the chapstick. We're going to talk. I'm going to ask him about it.
You going to ask him about the chapstick?
Why not?
Oh, my.
Don't you want to know? I know he's talking.
He made his own afterwards, so he's good at owning the situation.
That's what I'm saying. There are no questions off the table. This is probably why nobody wants to come on the show who's a politician, because I'm going to ask you questions that may be irrelevant and uncomfortable.
That may be one of the things that we require of all politicians trying to get the black vote is to
come here, right? I think so, but it's also very self-serving for me to say that.
Yeah. But
so
you do ask the questions.
I'm going to ask I'm gonna save the chat. If you're listening, Joe, get ready. I'm gonna save the question till the end so we can get pertinent things out of the way. But I'm gonna ask you about the chapstick. I need to know because there was a lot of moisture and glassiness.
There have been a couple of years in a row with moisture and
dryness.
Yes,
it was Marco Rubio before with the water. Looked like a scene out of Airplane with the drinking problem. You remember that scene? Okay. So let's play a little Stacey Abrams so we can have our happy. Let's play the first clip.
Good evening, my fellow Americans, and happy Lunar New Year. I'm Stacey Abrams, and I'm honored to join the conversation about the state of our union. Growing up, my family went back and forth between lower middle class and working class. Yet even when they came home weary and bone-tired, my parents found a way to show us all who we could be. My librarian mother taught us to love learning. My father, a shipyard worker, put in overtime and extra shifts, and they made sure we volunteered to help others. Later, they both became United Methodist ministers, an expression of the faith that guides us. These were our family values: faith, service, education, and responsibility. Now, we only had one car, so sometimes my dad had to hitchhike and walk long stretches during the 30-mile trip home from the shipyards. One rainy night, my mom got worried. We piled in the car and went out looking for him, and we eventually found my dad making his way along the road, soaked and shivering in his shirt sleeves. When he got in the car, my mom asked if he'd left his coat at work. He explained that he'd given it to a homeless man he'd met on the highway. When we asked why he'd given away his only jacket, my dad turned to us and said, "I knew when I left that man he'd still be alone, but I could give him my coat because I knew you were coming for me."
Just want to sit in that for a second. Yeah. Yep. Stacey Abrams. And I know that's a true story. Raised by two missionaries. Yeah. Oh, as Lurie was raised by two missionaries. I'm just people.
Missionary and a preacher.
And a preacher. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, good people.
Yeah.
Good people, those Abrams.
She resonated so well with so many people. And I was really glad to see that her personality came through, who she was, and why it was she had convinced the majority of voting Georgians to vote for her. And I say the majority because that election was stolen from her, in my personal opinion.
Oh, well.
And I think the facts
was it 200,000 people?
Several hundred of thousands of people who were taken off the rolls. Everything that her opponent could do as a Secretary of State who oversaw the election that he was actually running, and everything he could do legally to undermine and really disempower her ability to get a fair shot was done. So in my opinion, that election was stolen.
It still came down to like 70,000 votes.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So, yeah. But I think we now see why it was that she was so effective.
The smile. Just the warmth. There was something very brilliant. Like you just knew she was smart. And I don't know how it resonated with anyone else, but I leaned in. 866-801-8255. Did anyone lean out? Was anybody turned off by Stacey Abrams? Because I'm curious. I can't, I know that I can't judge things based on my own, view of things, right? Maybe somebody saw her differently.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to hear from, what you heard when you watched Stacey Abrams last night. Were you turned off by her? Did you think it was too hokey? Because we're in that space, too, where even that story might have been like, oh, yeah, your father was you know how people are.
Right. But that was, I thought one of the genius things about it was a raceless story. Right. Here she is standing in the body of a black woman, undeniably a black woman, and telling and communicating about things that are raceless in that they transcend the divisions of black, white, Hispanic, so on and so forth. So if you are a white working class person, that story, you can relate to that story. If you are an Asian working class person, you can relate to that story. That story was not my black daddy gave up his coat to the white worker. Like, we didn't have any of that. It was an act of empathy, worker to someone who was disempowered. And even though he was not coming from a position of privilege, recognizing that he had more privilege relative to this person he was passing on the street.
And the biggest thing, because it's #unity, he knew somebody was coming for him.
That's right.
And there's so many Americans, we were talking about this yesterday. There's so many people who are so lonely, even though we're so connected. There's so many people who are depressed and in their own silos, even though we are probably more connected than we've ever been in the history of the world. But there's a connectedness that she was talking about when we talk about the United States, that we are our brother's keepers. I say that all the time on the show because I believe that if that's not part of our mantra, not just as people, but as people, then we're lost.
Yeah.
And she brought that back. The role of the executive branch, the role of the commander in chief, the role of the president of the United States is someone who engenders trust here and abroad. Again, leader of our military, you have to believe that this person is going to send you into a fight for the sanctity of America and to uphold American values, not for greed, not Halliburton, hey, how you doing, Dick Cheney and y'all, not for any other nefarious reasons to avenge my father or because I need to do a deal with Russia or something. We have to know that this person is going to send our brothers and sisters and family members and loved ones into harm's way for a good reason.
Right.
We need to know that this person is going to do fair trade with other countries and put us in a good position, not from a bully standpoint, but from a everyone wins standpoint. Right? We have to believe that about our commander-in-chief, that from education to healthcare to
housing,
housing,
criminal justice, all of it.
Infrastructure, that this person has a bigger, grander vision that will service most of us.
Right.
Not because everyone's never going to be happy.
Right.
But there are 300 million of us plus. Is our commander-in-chief looking out for the majority? Or not even the majority? Maybe the underserved, the people who have no one to come for them.
Right.
She understands that.
She embodied that. He has yet to demonstrate his ability to embody that.
Because he doesn't come from that place.
Right.
Raised by a Nazi sympathizer. I don't know how you cut your teeth in housing, denying people the right to be in your houses and be sued for it multiple times. And lose. So, this is his foundation. His foundation is built on disenfranchisement, stealing. Literally 6 bankruptcies is theft. You've denied people the right to get paid for a job that they've done. Yeah. Right? 6 times.
Serial bankrupter.
6 times.
Yeah.
How many millions of dollars did people weren't able to feed their family with that was promised to them?
And what is so interesting to me is when I was in private practice and I had a consumer rights practice, and many of my clients did have to file bankruptcy. It takes so much. It can, if you don't have proper assistance, takes so much for you to get back on track that for someone to believe in you 5 additional times after the first one, 4 additional times after the second bankruptcy, 3 additional times after the third bankruptcy, that really does to me speak to the power of white privilege, because that never happens for clients of color.
What?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take one call on Stacey Abrams, and then we're going to take a brief break, and we're going to talk to Hydea Green. Hey, James in Virginia. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show. You're on with Lurie Favors.
Yes, hi. How are you?
Awesome.
Enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Well, I guess my question was a little different than Ms. Abrams, but overall, I thought she done an outstanding job, and I guess the only thing I thought, I was hoping that, I thought her voice was very low, but I just realized that's just the person. She's a very soft-spoken but yet powerful person, and so I just had to listen a little harder, but I thought she was exceptional, and very convincing type of person. But my main thing with the speech last night by President Trump, I thought he did a good job, but I think a lot of it was just a sheep in wolf's clothing, because some of the stuff he brought up, he's never really talked about before. So I think he was really playing a game that he knows very well called deception.
Right.
He's a great deceiver, and all the bankruptcies was all a matter of deception. And you're right. The average person would never get away with 6 bankruptcies in their lifetime. Never mind 2, but 6.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we have to start thinking more critically. And James, thank you for, your honesty.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it also is our conditioning. We have been conditioned to perceive leadership in a certain way, whether we're talking about CEOs or we're talking about presidents of colleges or universities and the United States of America. We've never had a president that has not had a Y chromosome. Not ever. Every single president of these United States has had a Y chromosome. Yeah. We are conditioned. It is hardwired into us to see that as leadership. We're conditioned to see forcefulness as strength.
Right.
Command of the language and being able to speak and project, and that's strength.
Black preacher oratory.
Yeah. Or charlatan oratory.
Right.
Snake oil salesman oratory. We've been conditioned. There's a sucker born every day. We've been conditioned to see, if someone speaks softly, that somehow is weakness.
Right.
But it could be, I don't need to beat you over the head with a lot of words or do it in a very strong way. And as somebody that speaks very loudly, that's just how that's how I'm wired. But, I totally respect how people are formed.
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams was authentically herself. And I felt all of it in the smile. I know people like smile. You get that sometimes. I get it all the time. Girl, why don't you smile? I'm not wired to smile. But I like it when people do it. So I was like, note to self, maybe I should smile more. I don't know.
For your own pleasure.
For my own pleasure, because it actually helps muscles in my face.
Yeah.
Or is it the other way around? I don't know. Anyway, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Dr. Hydea Green. We're going to talk about Aura Lee, because I want to get into the bones of it all. Like, how does it actually work? How do you eradicate through nanoparticles? How does that actually kill the tumor? It's the Karen Hunter Show. Lurie's here. Dr. Hydea Green will be in the house. We got a host of other guests. Stay tuned. It's Wellness Wednesday. We'll be back. All right, Lurie, we've been going back and forth on the Twitter.
Yes.
Or actually, not back and forth, but you've been laying down. If y'all not following Afro State of Mind on Twitter, I don't know what you're doing. Like, really, there's nothing else to do on Twitter, because she drops science and knowledge, and she gives us gems that we need to know.
I try a little bit. Thank you.
2020 census is super important.
It is.
The citizenship piece got knocked down by the courts.
It did indeed. We were very happy about that. And there are still 5 additional cases that are making their way through the courts. So we're hopeful. And we know that the case that the New York Attorney General just won, and we represented the New York State Black, Puerto Rican, Asian, and the New York State Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislative Caucus as amici in that case. We were excited.
So as amici, as a friend of the court.
As a friend of the court, advising
the
court.
We?
We are the Center for Law and Social Justice.
Where you
our general
are the lead
counsel.
Yeah,
yes, ma'am.
General counsel.
And so we were really excited about that decision. It was a 276-page decision. Judge Furman in the Southern District of New York really paid close attention to what was happening. And as you read the opinion, judges have this way of just being snarky without being snarky. It's a wonderful opinion that really does speak to the ways in which the Trump administration used everything but the truth to try to get this citizenship question on the census. And we believe that part of the reason they were doing that was to really help to do what has been done, which is to strike such fear in the heart of so many communities of color, Black communities, immigrant communities, low-income communities, in order to not have a full and accurate count on the census. And one of the things that you and I had been talking about over the Twitter sphere was this new category that they're going to be using on the census. It's a new racial category. Typically, what has happened in the past is you had categories like Negro on the census, right?
Negro, white, and other.
Negro, white, and other. And now for the first time this year, or on the 2020 census, which is our next census, there's going to be an opportunity for Black people to not just say their race, but also their ethnic origin, where they're from nationally. It's just really...
So for you for example,
yeah.
you would click check Black.
I would check Black as my race.
And then as your
I could
subcategory...
ethnically identify as either African American if I'm taking my father's side, or Jamaican American if I'm taking my mother's side.
Would it be Caribbean American, or are they being that specific?
You can be as specific as Trinidad. You can be specific as, you can name the country of origin. And, there are some concerns within the Black community, because a lot of us like,
my
wait
first
a minute.
thing was... divide and conquer.
Right. They try to separate the Blacks.
Yeah.
Right. And that makes sense because we know how race is used in this country. And so it makes sense that we would be concerned. But one of the things we have to remember is that Black is an American racial category, right? It's an African American thing. And it's not so long that we've been Black. We used to be colored, then Negro, and then there's been a lot of things, Afro American, African American. And so Black is an Americanism. And here we all know the 1 drop rule. 1 drop of Black blood was all it took. Now, you might have light skin privilege, but you were still Black. We have to remember that is not the way the rest of the world defines race. That's not how they define what group they belong to. So if I come from a country like a Latin American country where they have almost the opposite of the 1 drop rule. So we have 1 drop of Black blood makes you Black. There, it's a different frame. 1 drop of white blood is going to give you access to some things that you're not going to get if you are a pure Black person. So there's even this concept called blanqueamiento, the whitening of the race, where you can be very, very dark skinned, but if you have access to wealth, if you are culturally very Spanish in your demeanor as opposed to Black in your demeanor, right? You're going to get certain benefits, and those are holdovers from slavery. And there's a lot of reasons we could talk about that. We know that Spain and Portugal were run by North Africans for a good 700 years, from 711 until around early 1400s. Well, those of us who are Africana studies majors, we know this.
Lurie favors.
One of the things we know, however, is that only roughly 5 out of every 100 enslaved Africans who were stolen from the continent of Africa and actually made it to the Western Hemisphere came to what we now know as the United States of America. Which means when we're talking about the Pan-African diaspora, we have to be clear that the vast majority of the diasporian members they're not English-speaking Black Americans. They are Spanish-speaking Colombians,
Portuguese.
Venezuelans, Brazil, Jamaican, Trinidadian. So there is an entire world of Pan-Africa that dwarfs the African-American presence here in this country. So we just have to be clear that other countries don't necessarily define racial categories the same. So how does this relate to the census? If I am from Jamaica, and for me, Black is an American thing. So I come here, I know that there are people who are from Trinidad, they're Trinidadian Americans. I know that there are Haitians, they're Haitians Americans. I know that there are Black people, as we are recently learned, DOS, descendants of slaves, right, of enslaved Africans. That may be a Black American thing. So if I'm on the census, prior to 2020, I'm picking Trinidad because I don't identify as Black. The same way if we were to travel to Trinidad and move there, we're still probably going to identify as Black Americans.
Or as Americans.
We're not going to identify as Trinidadians, even though racially we are the same.
Right.
Ethnically, nationally, we are different. So if I'm from Ghana and I come over here, when I think about Black, I don't think about other Ghanaians. If I'm from Nigeria, I don't think Black is applied to Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. I think about Black as something that's American. So on the census, what has traditionally happened is I would write Trinidad, and that's it. Ain't no race.
Not even checking Black.
No, why would I check Black?
So
That's
Black
not for me.
Doesn't get
so we don't get the benefits of counting those Black people who are Black for our purposes. We do not get the benefits, and those benefits are up to $800 billion annually in funding that goes through from federal, state, and local government. That covers everything from schools, roads, teachers, books, highways, nursing homes, hospitals. Everything that the government provides is based on data gathered by the census. If we're missing entire swaths of people who are not considering themselves Black because they have to choose and make a decision, this is a type of questioning reformulation that's going to allow them to not have to choose. So that's why I say, people, listen, you want to be on Eastern Parkway come Labor Day, which is like one of the biggest parades in the country where all the Caribbeans come out and we, wave the flags. You can do that. You can do your 23andMe and know that you're 25% from Nigeria, 58% from Ghana, 2% from wherever. You can have all of that on your wall, have every flag up, wear a bandana, do what you got to do. But on the census, once you write Ghanaian, once you write Trinidadian or Jamaican, check Black. Here, race trumps ethnicity. Racial protections are what are going to get us protected in the voting booth. Racial protections are what's going to protect us when it comes to looking at the types of investments that should be made in communities. And if we don't have that understanding, we're going to be missing a lot of people. So at the Center for Law and Social Justice, we've been using the Check Black campaign. It's something that we've used in every census for the past 2 censuses. And we're going to be using it again. So the New York City Black Leadership Advisory Coalition is a Pan-African coalition that is designed to educate African descendant communities throughout the diaspora here in New York City about what this means. Because our ability to have political power, the proper amount of political power, the right number of votes to get legislation passed that is going to be beneficial to our people, all of it is tied to the census. So 2 things, check Black, and then write in whatever national category you need to make yourself feel good and sleep well at night.
In 5 minutes, Lurie Favors.
Was that just 5 minutes?
Packed in probably a whole semester's worth of census information. But we don't need a whole lot of time, as Stacey Abrams showed us last night, to say the things that need to be said. So thank you, Lurie Favors, for that public service announcement.
Yes, indeed.
For the census.
You'll be hearing that message from me a lot.
And on Wednesdays and beyond.
Yes.
Follow her at Afro State of Mind. We're going to take a brief break. We'll be right back.